going to go over some Robert Kennedy stories. This one almost was my intro. Let's listen to this nonsense right here. So we're talking progressive Democrats, better choice. If the choice is better and I'm a progressive, I'm actually going to choose Marianne Williamson because she's way better than Joe Biden, right? It should not be what progressive Democrats are doing. But what did RBN, Nick, and I specifically say? Why she's dead on arrival? Because the progressive establishment isn't supporting her. The Pramila Jayapals, the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders, the real Khannas will not be supporting Marianne Williamson or anyone else for that matter. They're supporting Joe Biden. And here is Ro Khanna being gleefully happy about his support for Joe Biden.
Congressman, first of all, your reaction to this news that President Biden is planning to announce his reelection as soon as next week.
I'm excited. President Biden has delivered for the American people. Manufacturing jobs are coming back, $200 billion invested here. He's actually delivering what Trump promised. Trump said, look, we had the hollowing out of the middle class, of the heartland. President Biden with Congress is delivering, and that's why I believe he's going to succeed, and he's going to build on the victory he had in 2020.
And Congressman, you have said previously that centrist Democrats could pose the biggest political threat to President Biden in the race in 2024 in a potential primary. What are your thoughts now, given this news?
He's remarkably unified, the Democratic Party. He's done it for...
He said before something about a progressive challenger. Now he's, what do you mean? He's unifying. Let's go back to that question.
Biggest political threat to President Biden in the race in 2024 in a potential primary. What are your thoughts now, given this news?
He's remarkably unified, the Democratic Party. He's done it for two reasons. One, his agenda, which is helping working class Americans, helping bring manufacturing back. But two, also the extremism of the Republican Party. I mean, when you have someone like DeSantis signing an abortion ban at 6 weeks and saying you have to provide proof of rape to be able to get an abortion. Let's just understand that is more radical than Ronald Reagan, Bush Sr., Bush Jr., or Donald Trump. And that's why the Republican Party has a real problem. I think those positions are unelectable in a general election. And you know who realizes that? Donald Trump. He's pleading with his party. Don't cut Social Security. Don't be so extreme on abortion. That's going to be the real problem heading into 2024.
Yeah, Trump notably quiet on abortion. But as we were just...
So the guy who's the progressive, the one who wants to be labeled a progressive all the time, and he's one of those who's always trying to combat and keep that narrative. I'm a progressive. I'm a progressive. I'm a progressive. What does it mean when he comes out and says, I'm supporting Joe Biden, the neo-lib? And he's actually unifying, and he's actually progressive. And then we have AOC in a previous segment talking about the infrastructure, and it's been such a thing. This is not an incremental step. This is a huge thing. We have progressives coming out saying these types of things. Who does that serve? Does that serve the working class to pretend like everything's okay? To pretend like Joe Biden's a good choice for progressives? Who does this messaging serve coming from the establishment? And kid you not, AOC, Bernie Sanders, are progressive establishment.
Just saying, Congressman, Trump does hold a significant lead in polling among Republican primary candidates, at least those who have announced so far. When you look at a potential Democratic field, do you genuinely believe that President Biden is the only Democrat out there who could beat Donald Trump if he...
The only Democrat out there. Now, his is his chance as a progressive to say something. Oh no, he's come on. No, there's other good people on the bench, but Joe Biden is already there. He's already in power. Let's just go with him. He could still support him and acknowledge that there's other good people. Let's see, even though there's not, I don't think it is. I'm saying he could say that. So let's see what he says.
He ends up being the Republican nominee.
He's the best Democrat who could beat him because of his...
He's the best. A progressive Democrat is saying Dementia Joe is the best.
Blue-collar roots from Scranton, Pennsylvania, because he's done it before, because he genuinely believes in helping the working class and manufacturing, bringing that back to the United States. But look, I will say this. It would be foolish to underestimate Donald Trump. I was wrong about Donald Trump in 2016. I was wrong in 2020. I thought we would win by more votes than we did.
You barely won because you guys are terrible. And it's the same proof that proof is in the. If you were this much better than the Republican Party, it wouldn't be this close. There's the proof. Now let's go to another case. There's a bunch of case study QB. So I guess this is the case study section of this stream, because this is him. This is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on with Tucker Carlson. The caption here says, U.S. presidential candidate Robert Kennedy Jr. on the losses of the armed forces of Ukraine. No one talks about it, but 14,000 Ukrainian civilians and 300 military personnel died. Ukrainians can't stand it. Everything they tell us about the war is a lie. This is a very short clip. Maybe I'll look and see if there's a longer version of this, but this is a very short clip. Let's listen.
Nobody talks about this. There's 14,000 Ukrainian civilians who have died, but 300,000 troops. The Russians are killing Ukrainians at a 7-to-1 to 8-to-1 ratio. They cannot sustain this. What we're being told about this war is just not true. Nobody talks about this. There's 14,000 Ukrainian civilians who have died, but 300,000 troops.
14,000 Ukrainians, meaning civilians, but 300,000 troops. 300,000 troops. Obviously, that's not the number that the U.S. is saying. But this is one of the things, some of the things that RFK Jr. says that some people who are non-established make him appealing to them. Now now I'm not invested at all in the blue-red, so I can talk about this stuff with no attachment because I don't care. I'm not participating in any Democrat at all whatsoever. But Jimmy Dore makes the point here where that the only place to hear the truth about the war is on Tucker with RFK Jr. Why do you think CNN and MSNBC and everyone else in corporate news keeps lying about the war and won't even bring on dissenting voices to debunk pro-war narratives? That's a rhetorical question. That's from Jimmy. And got some more. Let's listen to this short clip here.
All right, well, President Biden could have a significant challenge on his hand in the form of one Robert Kennedy Jr., the eldest son of the...
Now, here's another poll. Like I said, they only bring up one poll. Remember Stephen Dunzinger? She's at 10%. This poll right here, Marianne Williamson is clearly at 5% here.
Late Attorney General and presidential candidate Robert Kennedy, of course, was assassinated in 1968. But what's remarkable about this challenge...
So this is a USA Today Suffolk University poll conducted April 14th through 18th, so 5 days ago. 4% margin of error. So she could actually be at 1%. This is not serious. Anyway, let's continue.
Is how Robert Kennedy Jr. is polling in an environment where he's literally just begun this. Maybe owing to the name, maybe owing to frustration with how things are going in the economy or with the president. He gets 13 or 14%. He really hasn't even started yet. Let's get the read on all of this from Eliza Collins, the Wall Street Journal reporter. It's way too early, Eliza, and you remind me of that when we do these kind of segments. But what's remarkable here is coming out the gate with those kind of numbers. What do you think?
I think it shows that President Biden has a problem with the Democratic Party. Now, he is the only major candidate. I don't think that he has a real threat on his hands at this point, 13, 14%. But it shows to get that enthusiasm in order to win a general election and first a primary, he needs to do some work with Democratic voters. If, Robert F. Kennedy is polling in double digits, like you're saying, at just launching, there's a weak spot for Biden, and he needs to work to consolidate support and enthusiasm.
Now, normally other candidates who might have more heft and clout.
So let's go back to the poll. They keep saying this. Now, why would they do that? So you have a poll that comes out, says one thing. You have subsequent polls. Why aren't Marianne Williamson's people referencing the newer polls? Are we just going to keep referencing the old polls? Marianne is not polling at 10%. There's been several subsequent polls, several that have come out where she's no longer this. So it's only been one where she's at 10%, and she's only at 10%. I've covered this in the segment. There's only showing 10% because what they're doing is taking people who said, yes, I want to pick Marianne and maybe, and adding that together to get 10%. She's actually only getting 3% where people say they pick Marianne Williamson. That's only 3% in the poll that they're quoting. In the 10% poll that they're quoting, only if you look at the numbers, there's only 3% who are picking her. The other are saying maybe, but they keep pretending is this high. Like, if she's this good, why are you having to pretend? Why are you having not to update your polling numbers?
Just launching, there's a weak spot for Biden, and he needs to work to consolidate support and enthusiasm.
Now, normally other candidates who might have more heft and clout in the party hold off unless one of these other candidates, Williamson or Robert Kennedy Jr., seems to do well. I mean, that's really what happened to Lyndon Johnson in 1968. Went out of nowhere. Eugene McCarthy did, outstanding in the New Hampshire race. He lost it, but he still came very close. And that prompted LBJ to bow out of the race. Robert Kennedy later joined the race, Robert Kennedy Sr.
This next one, is from the 5 talking about same guy.
Feudalism in our country.
While Joe Biden drags his feet on a 2024 run, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is ready to challenge him for the Democratic nomination. The media is trying to write RFK Jr. off as a fringe candidate, but he's already snagging 14% of Joe's voters. That's no fringe. And 30.
This is the same poll, so this is not a different one. This is USA Today, Suffolk University, and specifically 600 Biden voters from 2020. So the people who actually came out and voted for a Democrat, this is what they're picking, I guess. So it's probably higher for RFK if you include independents and Republicans. It's probably higher.
82% of Dems would rather have anybody but Biden. The president could stop all the Democrat backstabbing if he was popular and had a strong record to run on, but the White House can't even defend that.
69% of people polled by CNBC say they have a negative view of the economy. President Biden talks about the economy all the time. What? Why are people lying?
He talks about the economy all the time because he wants the American people to know that he's doing everything that he can to make sure that his policies that he's put forward that has shown that he's building an economy that doesn't leave anybody behind. I know you're reading a poll right now. That is one poll.
There you go. It's just one poll. So Dana, RFK offers an interesting intersection of stances, which makes his impact kind of hard to predict. Like, who does he hurt more, Republicans or Democrats? Obviously, he's hurting Biden right now. Yeah. But he's an old school liberal, anti-war, distrustful of government. But then what used to be hard left, which was anti-vax, is kind of now across all politics, but it can be hard right.
A lot of these things where people on the right and the left have met around on the other side, and I just sit there and go like, I'm not there, but I've watched it happen, and it's on several issues, many issues, including some of the labor union stuff. So a lot of Democrats rolling their eyes, right? They're saying, oh gosh, here we go again. But the 14% is one of the things. His name has the cachet, not as much as it used to. Yeah. But Camelot has kind of left the building on that one. But look at where he did the event. He had a very good rollout. He did it in Boston. Boston's media market shares with New Hampshire. Biden has really given the middle finger.
Now, New Hampshire is the state that the Marianne Williamson campaign and all the people like Crystal Ball and Kyle Kalinske, New Hampshire. They're moving South Carolina ahead, and they're mad. If RFK comes in here and rips New Hampshire away from Marianne Williamson, what is she going to do? What? because he's likely to do that because he's from Boston and family's from Boston. They're from that area. This is all bad for Marianne Williamson. All bad. Let's continue the video.
To New Hampshire by saying that we're going to do the first of the primaries in South Carolina instead. New Hampshire voters are, even if they're partisan Democrats, they're not happy about that. And so you might see if there's a way that RFK Jr. would be able to push Biden into having to debate. Now, you haven't seen the White House actually get concerned, and we know what can happen, and we'll talk about it in the show, about when the White House campaign, Biden's campaign gets going, they could even get, a couple of dozen national security advisors to say things that aren't true. So what kind of opposition research could they do on something like this if they put their mind to it? They might not think that they want to do it, but Joe Biden is a historically weak incumbent.
Joe Biden is a historically weak incumbent. That is true. Another angle of that is this with RFK. I'll read this caption. In his speech today announcing his run for presidency, RFK Jr. reveals that former CIA officer Amaryllis Fox, who also happens to be his daughter-in-law, is one of the top officers of his campaign. So a top advisor or person in his campaign is so-called former CIA officer who happens to be his daughter-in-law. So his son, one of his sons married, or it could have been his daughter, I guess, married someone. And their daughter-in-law is a CIA agent in the campaign. Let's listen to this 30-second snippet. I think that's what he says here, but let's listen.
I do not believe that everybody at the CIA is a bad person. My daughter-in-law, Amaryllis, who is one of the top officers on this campaign, spent her entire career as a clandestine agent for the CIA as a spy in the weapons of mass destruction program.
Now, I'm out on that. I mean, I'm out on it because it's the blue team, but you're trying to tell me like this makes me... Now, I know a lot of people like this guy, non-establishment, but what he's saying here about the CIA, not every CIA, I can't. To me, it's akin of saying every slave owner wasn't bad. It doesn't fly with me. Just doesn't fly. So he's lost me just on that. I'm lost on this guy.
In some of the most dangerous parts of the earth, and I have never met anybody with such courage. I do not believe that everybody at the CIA is a bad person. My daughter-in-law.
Well, that's good. This is not every cop is bad, really. Being a good father and a good cook doesn't make you a good dad, or I'm sorry, a good cop. In the same way, being nice to people in your regular life doesn't make you a good person. It doesn't make you a good CIA person. They don't translate.